Despite Sue L. Robinson allowing for all the time in the world for these two sides to settle, and all the talk each side was looking to go all the way, now all of a sudden things might end in a settlement? By this logic, it'll probably be about 10 games and nearly $7 million. Why couldn't we have just gotten this done sooner?
Well, as The Rock said in Moana, you're welcome. I called it.
I mean, you definitely did call that.
All right, so everybody, we are here. We kind of figured after the reports from a couple of days ago that it would be around this time that the Deshaun Watson news would break, and thus, here it is. The NFL and Deshaun Watson have actually agreed to a settlement. It'll be an 11-game suspension and a $5 million fine. That is the final say. Peter C. Harvey is no longer needed. I know basically the NFL, according to reports, hadn't told him he wasn't needed yet. So basically, it was coming down to a race to see what would come first in these next couple of days. Would they actually settle? Or would Peter C. Harvey have to make the ruling and then everybody goes to federal court and this dragged on longer?
Well, by the way, why don't we introduce everybody? That's Tom Albano, that's Johnny Montalbano, I'm Nick Morganson, all from our sports shows on the...
Yeah, ETV Sports and Game On having another crossover.
There's going to be a lot of that this week, just warning. But let's put it this way. So the Deshaun news breaks, the NFL and Deshaun Watson agree to a deal, and the reason I say agree is because I don't believe half the BS that was put out there in the news. Adam Schefter, one of the first. Now, I don't look at a lot of the local guys and gals. Like you had the Jake Trotters, and you had
Mary Kay
Cabot, both who are two of the biggest that cover the Cleveland Browns for the NFL. Once you see it in the national news, and no, I don't mean Pro Football Talk. I don't mean anything with Pro Football Talk, because he's too busy making fun of the sport and making a mockery. But my point is, Adam Schefter broke the news. It's 11-game suspension, $5 million fine. Yes, $5 million.
So I'll explain the fine portion. So basically what happens here is it is a $5 million fine for Deshaun Watson. But the reason I take a victory lap and say technically I was kind of right is because the NFL and the Cleveland Browns are each also going to add in $1 million, and they're going to take that $7 million, and they're going to basically donate it. As hey, we're going to donate it to a charity that's all for the protection of women, and we're going to all sing Kumbaya.
Wait a minute now, and Johnny, I'll ask this to you too. So when they say $5 million donating to charity, that's a PR stunt. Okay, we all know. What did you think? The NFL was going to take that money and put it back in their pocket?
Well, as Stephanie McMahon of WWE said, that basically charity work is the new form of marketing.
Yeah, it's optics. That's really what it is. I mean, when do you ever hear a fine announced like that?
I don't know, but I'm just tired of it.
Here's what I would say. They say it's going to go to certain things, but is it really going to go to certain things?
No, of course not.
It's going to go to other stuff. It's not. It's like when they tell you that they're gonna, your money is going to go to this and that, but it's going to go to 20 other things too, or 20 other things before it goes to the thing that you were saying.
It's like taxes. It's like taxes. They don't tell you where it goes.
Yeah.
Not to make things political, but just my.
That's the comparison that you would make in something like this. But I mean, so it's so funny. So I'll tell you, because I'm the one that was bringing up this news to the guys this morning. And this has been the entire summer pretty much. I mean, I know it's been from the day that the Browns acquired Watson, but this has really been a whole summer thing, because I know we've been messaging back and forth and, saying that, we keep checking the phone every day. They're saying it's going to be next week or this week. And then this morning, just as I get off of work, I'm seeing that they're expecting an announcement today. And
they said, what was it, 49 days or something they said? It was a crazy number. And by the way, and Tom and I said this on Empty the Bench over the past couple of weeks, Sue L. Robinson was basically a choice. It was not a recommendation. Excuse me. It was a recommendation. It was not the be all end all. It was basically recommendation.
And basically, it was the NFL basically using Sue L. Robinson as a shield, because you saw all that Sue L. Robinson was saying about how there was a violation, a gross violation of the personal conduct policy, but she went on 6 games because she was going on NFL precedent, basically implying what Nick Federa and I had implied like a month or two ago, that basically the NFL's own past, Ray Rice, Greg Hardy, etc., combined with basically their lack of punishments for the owners, were going to come back to bite them.
Well, but I'm not surprised by this. The NFL owners get nothing.
But I think people and reporters kind of saw through Sue L. Robinson and basically saw what the NFL was trying to do.
I know.
I'm sorry, Nick.
No, go ahead. Yeah,
I would say, because I wasn't able to be on with you guys when Sue L. Robinson's decision was made. But if you read her entire decision, while I didn't agree with it, if you read the decision, to me, it made it seem that the 6-game suspension was actually understandable. And again, I don't like that. I think, when you're comparing it to all the other suspensions that are happening in the league, we've been documenting this on both of our shows before, comparing it to Calvin Ridley, comparing it to players that have tested positive for performance-enhancing substances like
DeAndre
Hopkins. Yeah, that's where it comes down. And this has been a problem that the NFL has had for the longest time right now, is something like domestic violence, sexual assault, all that kind of stuff. I don't feel like the NFL's ever gotten this right. I don't know if the NFL's ever going to get this right. They might actually be, of the 4 major sports, the worst when it comes to handling this kind of stuff.
They are.
I mean, it's crazy.
This solidifies it. This solidifies it.
I do agree with that. Absolutely. I mean, and the thing is, too, so the first thought I have is 11-game suspension. And 11 is such an odd number. You always think of it like a round number, like a 6, 8 half-game season, maybe a full season. They go to 11.
John, so there's a reason to that. And I think there is a reason to that, because if you look, last week, Nick and I on Empty the Bench, Nick had reported that basically Deshaun was all of a sudden last week, like I was playing in that minute, now all of a sudden willing, like, hey, eight games, $5 million. All of a sudden, he's fine with settling. And Joe Kleeman, an independent NFL reporter, said,
Who's been on it, by the way.
Yeah, basically said before Sue L. Robinson's ruling came down, the NFL offered 12 games, $8 million. Basically, kind of implying what we had said on the show, Nick. Basically, are you sure you guys don't want to settle? Because again, I think Sue L. Robinson knew whatever ruling she made was going to be the wrong one.
But here's the problem. I'm going to go back to one thing that it is again. If my sound would work. If my sound is not working, there we go. It's all about the money. Because think about this for a second. Again, and you and I have said this many times, $230 million guaranteed. Now, for the 11 games...
all in bonus.
Well, he's got a $1 million base salary. It's not going to be $1 million base anymore, but he's going to lose $5 million out of this whole thing. Oh, I mean,
$5 million.
I mean, so big deal. He's left with $225 million, which can't be touched because it's fully guaranteed. If it wasn't fully guaranteed, they could touch a lot of this money, but they can't do that.
Right, because that's Deshaun Watson and his agent.
But I have another question.
Before you get there, the reason it's 11, I think the NFL has a little to do with it.
Well, yes.
Because normally I would think 10 games, but 11 maybe because the NFL originally offered 12. But conveniently, if you look at the NFL schedule...
Yep.
So, first of all, Week 9 doesn't count because that's Cleveland's bye week. So that doesn't count as part of the suspension. He has to serve that as well. So that leaves Week 13, December 4th, they're playing the Houston Texans.
Of course.
Excuse me for a second.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
He's going to get a revenge game in his first game back.
No, and I'm going to say this again, and I know people are going to be angry about it. The NFL strategically planned that.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's there, yeah.
You're telling me that they didn't want a revenge game after all this. They wanted the storylines, they wanted the headlines. They could give two craps what the NFL fans want. They want their headlines. That's it. They want their money. It's going to be the most watched game of the season.
Well, the next thing they're going to do is they're going to flex that game into prime time if they have. That'll be the next thing
they will. It's either they're going to flex into prime. Actually, hang on a second. Let me have a look. Because the score, the app that I use.
Well, wait a minute, Tom. Tom, did you see what Schlosser said? I sent you that tweet that he put out.
Yeah, our old friend Urinating Tree on YouTube, basically implying the NFL that they knew what they were doing with this.
They all know. And by the way, Twitter has gone in an absolute frenzy over this news. All the NFL analysts.
So the December 4th Cleveland-Houston game is a 1:00 regional game on CBS. So
that'll change quickly.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So like here in New York, basically, that's probably gonna get beat out by the Jets and Vikings at that in that same time slot. I guarantee you, Nick. I agree. I guarantee you something like. See, I'm looking at. Oh, the Sunday night game is Colts versus Cowboys. I guarantee you, Browns versus Texans.
Not the Cowboys. Not the Cowboys.
That's the Cowboys out.
Okay, well, that's going to be a problem. I don't.
You could move it to 4:25.
No,
Nick.
I would say Thursday.
Yep. Timeout. So the 4:00 game. That's of that slate. Dolphins, 49ers, Seahawks, Rams, Chargers, Raiders, Chiefs, Bengals. Maybe Dolphins 49ers, but if Trey Lance is having a Trey Lance, but Nick, the problem with yours Thursday night that week, Bills Patriots.
You also can't flex a game into Thursday night from.
I know, but you're gonna flex out Bills Patriots, which is probably gonna be a big divisional game.
You probably can't. I mean, the only option you have is Monday night.
Yeah, but they don't.
Saints Buccaneers.
They don't flex games from days. They can flex time slots on Sunday.
They flex time slots. You're right, and even then, Saints Buccaneers. They're not flexing Brady out of Monday.
And who are the Cowboys playing again?
The Colts. It might have to be.
Then maybe you flip flop the Cowboys. I mean,
you're gonna have to tell Jerry, hey, sorry. Well, you don't have to, but the NFL's probably gonna have to. Tell Jerry
Johnny. The Cowboys are probably going to be a non-story this year again, anyway, just because. They had their year, and usually they flip-flop between years. They have a good year and a bad year.
And actually, Dolphins 49. I don't know if they'll flex that because Dolphins, Tyreek Tua.
Tyreek Tua, yeah.
Is that game in San Francisco?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they won't move that up. So
I don't think that's going to get moved.
I'm telling you right now, if Roger Goodell has his way, it's going to be a primetime game somewhere.
You know what? Unless they do method of last resort and they say, well, NFL Network usually has that we go into every game show, but we're going to do a 1:00 special on NFL Network.
That'll never happen. Never happen. It's going to end up, I think it's going to end up on Sunday night. I think the Cowboys are going to have to take a back seat for 1 week. I know they make the most money. They have the richest owner in the NFL, but
it happens to everybody. So, you know what? But that'll be week 13, and that's usually around the time where you start seeing those games.
The flexes, yeah.
And that you'll probably by week 10 is when you would get a decision on that.
And by the way, the excuse that's going to come out is, are the Texans even going to be relevant? They're not.
Right.
They're not. But it's more of the storyline than the matchup.
Right, because Cleveland, I don't see making the playoffs, especially with Watson suspended 11 games, especially when you have the defending AFC champions in your division. And everyone, for some reason, is saying that the Ravens have a good shot. I don't buy that when the Ravens have no receiving core whatsoever. But yeah, Houston's one of the favorites to get a number 1 pick this year. It's like Houston and Atlanta are like the two big favorites to get the number 1 pick. So, they could flex it very well for storyline, but I guarantee you, if they do that, like around week 9, week 10, we're also going to get a statement from Jerry Jones saying this isn't fair.
You're going to get a statement that basically says, how about them Cowboys?
How about them Cowboys? This isn't fair. This is bullshit. I have Dak and Zeke, and we're going to be winning the NFC East, and we're going back to the Super Bowl because how about them Cowboys?
Yeah. Still waiting on that, Jerry. Still waiting. Hey, listen, I don't have a bone to beat. I can't have a beef with Jerry. My team's got their own problems.
But I have another question. I have another question though, and now I want to ask. So this negotiation was supposedly going on behind the scenes, and it came out because Diana Rossini of ESPN was at Brown's camp, I think in Nashville, and basically she reported that the NFL was not happy with the way the negotiations ended. If you're not happy, why did you make the agreement with Deshaun and his team?
Well, first of all, that is my question to all this, because both, like I actually said in that minute, both sides were all of a sudden willing to go all the way. Deshaun pleading his innocence. The NFL is saying, we want to make a statement. We want to change our culture, even though that last part is complete bullshit, and I can go into why. But there's one reason. I think Deshaun, everybody settled in this situation, from the women to Deshaun at the NFL, because everyone knew that the next result was going to be bad. The NFL did not want this. The NFL did not want this going into federal court. They didn't want this situation to drag into the regular season. Deshaun and his team didn't want this dragging into federal court because, as I mentioned on ETB, the NFL is basically undefeated in federal court. Guys, do you remember who the last person to take the NFL to federal court over a suspension was?
God, I don't remember. It wasn't Ray Rice,
Tom
was it?
Brady, Deflategate.
Oh,
And he lost.
That almost went to the Supreme Court, if I'm not mistaken, didn't it?
It did, Nick. And that's the whole point of this. If Tom Brady, probably one of the faces of the NFL, one of the guys most likely to have his number retired league-wide if the NFL ever did such a thing, he didn't win in federal court. What makes you think Deshaun Watson had a shot?
Well, I don't. Deshaun Watson's got a much different issue than Tom Brady. Tom Brady was just deflating football.
That's the thing. Tom Brady's was over a minuscule thing. This is 24 women. And unfortunately, in the case of the 24 women, they also settled too, because once the criminal charges,
they had no case, really.
Away, they
no
basically
defense.
They realized, we're in a little bit of trouble.
All right. Can we just correct one thing in technicality? It's really 66. We're not talking about the big number in play. I know there were 24 cases and settlements, but there's really 66 women who were unfortunately mistreated here.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
And people are not talking about, and I'm tired of, excuse me, Deshaun, and he had a press conference earlier today after the announcement came out, and he's still going around saying, well, I didn't really do anything. I'm angry, blah, 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 blah.
So I actually do have the statements from Deshaun and the statement from D, and Jimmy has them, if you want me to read them.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Do you want the Watson one first or the Haslam's one first?
Give me the Watson one, because the Watson one got me annoyed, and he said a lot of weird things.
Okay. Quote, I'm grateful that the disciplinary process has ended and extremely appreciative of the tremendous support I have received throughout my short time with the Browns organization. I apologize once again for any pain the situation has caused. I take accountability for the decisions I made. My focus going forward is on working to become the best version of myself on and off the field and supporting my teammates however possible while I'm away from the team. I'm excited about what the future holds for me in Cleveland. Now, Nick, I know what you're talking about, the annoyances. His press conference pretty much implying that, that he did nothing wrong, stating his innocence, but he is willing to apologize to basically those, I think, the folk to who he has triggered.
Which makes no sense. Why are you apologizing if you think you didn't do anything wrong? The whole world knows you did something wrong. You just don't want to admit it.
I mean, Sue L. Robbins' statement says, in some way, even if what he did was not criminally wrong, even though he has no criminal charges, basically he did violate the PCP, the personal conduct policy.
And by the way, the reason that they came to a settlement and Deshaun's team finally came to a settlement is probably because Peter C. Harvey was probably going to give him an indefinite suspension.
Oh, of course. Again, they all wanted to avoid court because once the Harvey's ruling was going to come down, let's face it, guys, we've said this. Harvey was going to be Goodell's lapdog. Give him the year plus the fine, and basically he has to reapply for reinstatement. The NFLPA and Watson's team were going to take him to court, and this was going to drag on and on and on.
This would have been a PR nightmare. Like, it would have been talked about on all the NFL pregame shows. It would have been talked about on NFL Network. It would have been talked about on ESPN. It would have been all over talk radio for the whole season Because if that happened, this wouldn't have been settled through this season. They said that this could have taken months.
Mm-hmm. So here's the statement, by the way, from the Haslams. As we have previously conveyed, Deshaun and his representatives have abided by the NFL and NFLPA structure awaiting a final decision, and we have respected the process. Now that a decision on discipline has been reached, we understand this is a real opportunity to create meaningful change, and we are committed to investing in programs in Northeast Ohio that will educate our youth regarding awareness, understanding, and most importantly, prevention of sexual misconduct and the many underlying causes of such behavior. Since Deshaun entered our building, he has been an outstanding member of our organization and shown a true dedication to working on himself, both on and off the field. We will continue to support him as he focuses on earning the trust of our community.
So what do you think, Johnny?
The Haslams are just flat out lost. I mean, first of all, I think it's ironic. Tom, repeat part of that line about there was one line in there that just really caught my attention.
You want me to repeat the full statement until you hear it?
I'm just trying to remember it off the top. I'm
Well,
sorry.
I'll tell you one thing that stood out to me: respecting the process.
That's it. Yeah.
No one has respected the process. If we respected the process, this would have been done before Deshaun ever saw a preseason game.
Absolutely. This would have been if we respected the process, they wouldn't have traded for him because this would have been done during Houston.
That's where I'm going at. And this is also the same organization that brought in Kareem Hunt after his problems.
Yep. Absolutely. Right after the Chiefs cut him.
Absolutely, yeah.
And look who's fighting for a contract now because of it and demanding trades.
Kareem Hunt, yeah.
Well, listen, the Browns on the field, just for a second here. Now they actually have multiple injuries already to start the season. So yeah, I could care less about that right now.
Johnny, which actually goes to a point I said at the start of all this once Deshaun got traded to Cleveland, that basically the Haslams and the Browns organization were willing to throw this season away in the hopes to have more long-term success with Deshaun. The question is, by the time Deshaun gets on the field, that December 4th game, it's 700 days. It's about 2 years since he's actually laced up, as a starter.
Oh, yeah. And I got into a debate with people online about that because everybody was actually so excited about that. I'm like, guys, I understand he hasn't taken a hit, but you haven't played a game in and
preseason practices and scrimmages are much different from the full intensity of December.
You can't hit really technically in practice if you think about it. Now, the issues
the Patriots, but
yeah, because they put that stupid red jersey on the people you can't hit during practice. Mm-hmm. This whole thing is a mess, and I'm tired. I see Cleveland fans. We're standing for Deshaun Watson and his teammates. I think, Johnny, you talked about it on your last episode, and I think we talked about it too, Tom.
Yeah.
That his teammates are defending him.
His teammates are defending him. I think it was Sarah Spain or a couple of them reporters were basically showing at a recent camp or open practice all these little kids going up to Deshaun, basically looking at him as a hero. One of the teammates coming out and saying that basically they're all about Deshaun. So this goes back, actually, Nick, to something I said weeks ago, that basically no matter what happened to Deshaun, whether it's 6 games, 11 games, the full season, the problem is that culture that the NFL is saying. Remember at Sue L. Robinson's statement that basically they were trying to change culture too fast. Now, it sounds like a stupid thing to say about changing culture too quick, but here's the problem with that. That culture that's being talked about is still there. If that culture is no longer in the NFL, why is Robert Kraft still owning the Patriots? If that culture is supposedly changed, why is Jerry Jones still own the Cowboys? Why does Dan Snyder still involved with the Washington Commanders?
I'll tell. Good.
No, I was going to say, and that teammate, there were a couple of them, but there were a couple of them who basically came out and said that they were willing to defend Deshaun and that he did nothing wrong. That shows me even the players, to some degree, are also part of the problem. That culture that everyone is talking about, oh, we're going to change things, like in the Haslam statement, that, it's an opportunity for change. No, because the problems are still there.
Yeah.
There's no respect. There's no respect for anybody. The owners are the owners club. We've said this a million times, where the owners have what? Money. And by the way, actually, this is good because Nick is here and I can make this joke now. So, the Patriots, you were just talking about Robert Kraft. I'll say it again.
Here we go again.
And I'm going to say it, and Nick might laugh out loud again when I say it. But, again, Kraft Services under the table, okay? And I'm serious. He did so many things in that massage parlor that...
All this talk...
Everything except the colonoscopy, and God knows that it probably happened too.
So all this talk, my point is, all this talk in the Haslam statement about bringing change and teaching lessons to the youth, bullshit.
There's no teaching anything to the youth here.
And I might as well. I am a little late. Hi, everybody, but I might as well throw my 2 cents into this cheap dime store hat, right? Ladies and gentlemen, what we are seeing is the culmination of a long, in terms of sports podcasting saga. And this truly is the he did it's the the axiom, if I didn't do it, but if I did, it's your fault, and if it did, and if it's your fault, then that means you deserved it. And that, you ever seen that meme?
No, it's basically
that's essentially that, where that's Deshaun didn't do it. Okay, he's sorry, but he didn't do the thing you're telling him. Okay, he did it, and he's sorry. But he doesn't actually have any legal liability. So nah. So you're constantly shifting the Overton window to. It's at a certain point where you don't even know what the term assault even is. You would look at a salt shaker and think that that's actually what that was. So. Like I've said before, and I've said it so many times, I could probably recite it in my sleep. There are no good guys in this case.
No.
There are only the victims, and the victims are... I really feel sorry for them throughout this entire ordeal, because the NFL gets to polish the badge, and that's not code for something. They actually get to polish the badge.
Be careful.
And then act like Johnny fucking Law. Deshaun Watson fucks off for 11 games. He gets to come back and gets paid his full salary on my birthday, by the way. That December 4th is his first game back. So happy fucking birthday to me.
Oh, so that's why they picked the 11 games. It wasn't that they were playing the Texans coming back. It's because of your birthday.
No, they're just trying to screw me over.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Because everything is content, and content is everything.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
At a certain point, it's just so. But the real accountability, I mean, nowhere to be found here. So everybody gets to save face, and nobody answers for what they did.
Like Johnny kind of implied earlier, and Nick, actually all three of us kind of did. If this process was respected, like the Haslam's statement was, this would have been done while Deshaun was still in Houston.
If this was a respectable process, he would have been suspended for 8
I just said that.
Let's just go back and play in hindsight for 1 second. If the Texans did have Watson active for 1 game last season, where would we be right now? Think about that.
That's a good question,
right?
That's
because really part of this is because the Texans thought they were doing the NFL a favor by not making him active in any game last season.
Well, Johnny, remember, it wasn't just solely, or if at all, any relation to these cases while he was there. He had a problem with Houston already. He and Houston were butting heads since the 2020 season.
Well,
after DeAndre Hopkins got traded.
Well, they had the contract issues, they had the injury issues, and so on and so forth. That's right. What he was dealing with the Texans.
But in terms of where we'd be today, the problem, Johnny, that I'm thinking about is, think about how long it took for Sue L. Robinson to make her ruling. The constant, are you guys sure you don't want to settle? Are you guys sure you don't want to settle? And then Peter C. Harvey, remember, guys, what was the word that was being thrown around? Expedited appeal process. 2 weeks, at least in my mind, is not expedited.
No, that's the thing, and we all had alluded to that. The thing was, the season's upcoming. I'm sure the NFL was watching Watson take the field on Friday against Jacksonville, had to think in their mind that they had to get this done really, really soon, because the optics of that was just, and I don't care if it was a preseason game or what, but the optics of that were just awful. I mean,
Right, which is why I'm surprised it didn't come down last week. But I think it took that preseason game for the NFL to realize, and Nick Federa, I think that's why they didn't go the full way and finally settled, because they did not want this stretching into the season.
It has nothing to do with that, to be honest. It has to do with the money. They're protecting the money of the NFL. This has nothing to do with what it looks, because the NFL doesn't care about their image.
They care.
We know that.
They care.
No, they care. They care.
They care.
Tom, if they cared about the image, they would have kept them off the field before the game.
No, Nick,
Dude,
listen,
the image is the money.
Nick, time out. I'm not saying they care in terms of the women who were the victim of this. They care about one thing: the shield.
The shield.
Well, but if that was the case, why didn't they exert the shield and keep him off the field?
And why didn't they do Nick? And that's a fantastic question, and I don't know that answer.
Yeah. I mean, if you're gonna get that abstract, I mean, why is the process, the disciplinary process, so labyrinthian in the first place? Why anything?
But there's no respect. We just heard it in the statement from the owners that they respect the process. And you want to know what I have to say about respecting the process? Because Nick is finally here.
Congratulations, dickweeds.
That's what I think about the process.
The process is actually a hedge maze you have to go through. And when you get to the end of it, when you finally get to the end of it, after 2 weeks, you're bruised, bloodied, and full of dirt. You see me, and I'm saying,
"Oh, I missed it."
Congratulations, dickweeds. You made it to the end.
Well, I was going to say, I would go one step further. It's like the rat in the maze. One side has the cheese, and one side has the electric fence. Well, both sides have hit the electric fence a million times and don't know what to do with themselves.
I mean, it's pretty obvious they came into this situation wanting to avoid any kind of Ray Rice, a repeat of that, even though they were headed that way.
Nick, if they wanted to avoid the Ray Rice thing, they would have thrown the suspension
right at him.
They would have, like I said, they would have done this during the 2021 season when he was still in Houston.
So that came skedaddling out the window, but I mean, at a certain point, people need to recognize that just because he's not admitting it doesn't mean he didn't do it.
But
all right, so Adam Schefter just put out an interesting tweet.
I was just going to comment.
I just saw Adam Schefter.
I think we all were looking, and we all.
Let me read this tweet. So, Deshaun Watson has to comply with the eval and treatment recommendations of a third-party behavioral expert to be reinstated. His reinstatement is contingent upon his compliance with the treatment plan. If he doesn't comply, his reinstatement could be delayed, plus further discipline. Now, reading that makes it sound like it's an indefinite suspension.
Your reinstatement.
Yeah, that's the thing. It was only supposed to
be until December 4th.
Right. No, I'm saying basically the applying for reinstatement was only for indefinite suspensions.
But wait a second. So are they saying that they're implying that he has to actually apply for reinstatement even though he's only had 11 games?
Basically, it depends on the treatment for a program. If he completes it, it's basically courses on how to, I hate to say it, but not be so shitty toward women.
Wait a minute.
It could be the shortest. It could be the shortest thing you ever been through. I don't do that. What you?
Right. I'm gonna say, I hate putting it in those words, but I have no other way of professionally saying them.
No,
don't do that.
I only have one way to sum this up. Maybe, if my computer would wake up, that would be great. I guess it doesn't want to.
I think I know which one you're going for. Yeah.
This is one giant circus.
I mean, we know that. A, we know that already. B, this is not the end of it, because
no. Let's be real, guys. Let's be real. So, in other words, if he doesn't complete this program, it's going to go on for longer. But do you guys really think, with how long this is dragged out for, combined with that Browns-Texans game, and it being Nick's birthday, you really think they're going to say Deshaun didn't complete the program?
Yeah, this is gonna be about as valid as a degree from Arizona State.
That was good.
Yeah, Mike, it's about as worthless as a degree from ITT Tech.
That's that reminds me of the Family Guy episode where Peter went to chiropractor school and he walked up to the front. He just said, "Anybody else? Anybody else graduating?"
Yeah, I remember that.
It's as worthless as a degree from McMahon University.
Don't bring that up. Another story came up on that, but that's not why we're here.
Here's an interesting question though, and I've been meaning to ask this. So now that Deshaun Watson is in suspension land, which really is the worst board game ever.
Worse than Candyland and Shoots and Ladders?
It's kind of that, but with more subpoenas and misery. So that being the case, so Jacoby Brissett is now the backup, right?
He's the starter.
He's going to be the starter for 11 games.
He was the backup, now he's the starter. And I hate to bring it down to shop talk, but this horrible hypothetical. So, assuming that he doesn't completely tank, assuming that Jacoby Brissett does well, because I've always liked Jacoby Brissett. So imagine he's like 500, and Deshaun Watson comes back and throws bullets and gets the Browns into a playoff spot. How much of a headache does that create for the league?
I think it creates a pretty decent headache. And honestly, if we're going to debate about on the field, we're talking about the schedule because we saw when he first got the 6-game suspension to settle, the schedule wasn't too big. Let's do the Woody Page thing. Let's check the schedule.
I was just about to go look for it.
All right. So week 1 is the infamous Browns-Panthers game that Baker Mayfield is. It does look like it's going to be official. Baker Mayfield is going to officially be named the starter this week for week 1.
They're going to lose that. They're going to lose that.
It's going to be a Baker revenge game, isn't it?
Baker revenge game, probably, yeah.
They're going to lose that.
So 0-1, week 2 versus the Jets.
Well, here's the thing about that, though. Who's going to be starting?
Probably Flacco.
Do we know that Zach Wilson's going to be back by week 2?
That's going to be the battle of the dumb. I'm just telling you now.
I can see it right now. Jacoby Brissett against Joe Flacco.
And I'll be honest, just knowing how the Jets season is going already based on their injuries preseason, the Browns are winning that game.
Well, I mean, they did catch a break though with Zach. I mean,
they caught Johnny. I'm so sorry to say they caught the wrong kind of break with Mekhi Becton.
Well, that was a very unfortunate thing. That's for sure. But
0-17.
Yeah, he wants an 0-17.
He's begging on 0-17.
They made a couple of good moves though, so they're not going to be. They're more like 4-13, 5-12 kind of team.
You didn't put that. By the way, you did not put that 0-17 down in a sports book when you were in Foxwoods, were you?
No, I didn't.
No, just
because I hate to think you went there just for the express purpose of betting on them going 0-17. Because if you did,
I would. I would go do it now if I could.
Yeah, I don't think they're an 0. Well, I guess for Nick, unfortunately, I don't see them as an 0-17 team. That as far as the game, oh man.
Let's go. How about we go with let's do worst case scenario. Let's do a worst case and a best case scenario. So let's do worst case scenario. That's a loss.
Yeah.
Okay. Week number 3, Thursday Night Football. They only get 4 days rest, and then they got to play the Steelers. Loss.
Even though the Steelers are an abomination, I would still take the Steelers.
Yeah, I agree. So that's a loss.
Yeah.
So 0-3. Browns versus so 0-3. We're doing a worst case. So 0-3 worst case, 1-2 best case. Week 4, they play the Falcons. I think that's a win because I think the Falcons are going to get the number 1
I think
pick.
the Falcons are the worst team in football.
Who's the QB?
Marcus Mariota. The Browns are winning that game.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be like a circus field goal at the end of that game. I could just see it.
10-9?
Yes. Yeah.
For Thursday night, guys. Oh, I'm sure that's what Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit said.
Well, let's put it this way. Most of us don't have to watch it if we don't want to, since it'll be on Amazon.
That's true. So 2-2, or at worst, that's their first win of the season. So 2-2 or 1-3.
Yeah.
Then they get the Chargers. That's a loss. Herbert's going to throw all over the place.
They're going to get destroyed.
That's all.
Herbert is going. I know the Browns have a good defense, but Herbert's going to torch through all of that.
Yeah.
That's a loss.
41-9.
What happened,
What?
Johnny?
41-9, and the only question is, how did the Browns get to 9?
Exactly. So that's 2-3 or 1-4.
Yeah.
Patriots, that's a loss.
Yeah, that's not looking good.
2-4, 1-5.
Yeah.
Browns versus Ravens. The Ravens aren't a great team in my mind. I don't have as good of a view of the Ravens as everybody else, but I still think
I would take Lamar. I would take Lamar alone, running all over them.
So 2-5 or 1-6. Browns Bengals. Now that Deshaun's not playing, that's going to be a loss.
No,
that is
Even with Deshaun playing, I'd still take
two. Okay, I agree on that. 2-6 or 1-7. Browns versus. Then they get their bye week. Browns versus Dolphins.
They're going to lose that too, by the way.
I think they'll lose that one too. I don't know how.
Oh no!
Will
I said they were going to lose the bye week as well.
Oh. They pull the Jets. Jets always lose the bye week.
Jeez.
Okay, so what are we up to now? So that was week 9. Oh, actually week 10.
2 and
because week 9
6.
is, so 2-7 or 1-8.
Oh, you can't.
Browns Bills, that's a loss. So
Oh.
2-8 or 1-9.
Yeah.
Browns Bucks,
That-
that's a loss. So Browns Bucks is a loss. So when they get ready to play Houston, they're either going to be, in our minds, 2-10 or 1-11.
Guys, and I hate to bring this up to an on-the-field thing with Deshaun, but if Deshaun's up there, I'm giving them maybe 2 or 3 more wins tops. They're still under 500 by the time he comes back.
Johnny, Nick Federa's question is out of it. If we think they're going to be 2-10 or 1-11, they ain't making a Dolphins style surge in the last.
Can I make one other approach here? If they're 2-10 or whatever, 1-11, they should just sit Deshaun for the whole season at that point. There's no reason to play him.
Yeah,
I disagree on that only because I feel like they need, like, again, it's already going to be 2 years by the time he gets onto the field in week 13 when he's eligible to return to the field.
Do you want him to get hurt when he comes back?
Nick, but you have to see what you have. Like Johnny implied, preseason and these training camps are a lot different than an actual game. I wouldn't play him in every game, but you should still play him for a couple to see what you have.
I think the thing I would say to Nick's point for a second would be, you don't think there's going to be somebody on one of those teams' defenses that are going to come try charging right after Watson for what he
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. My point is, it's an injury risk. Think about it.
Okay,
sexual abuse is a horrible thing.
Okay, I'll back down from that, but just understand. Then it's even a bigger risk because then it's going to be 2.5 to 3 years since he's last played.
I agree with that too. I mean, they kind of go hand in hand. What's the Browns' remaining schedule? But when he comes back,
okay, actually, let me get that back up.
Well, we already know what the first matchup is when he comes back. The Texans.
It's going to be the Texans, and honestly, the Texans are one of the worst teams in football, along with the Falcons.
And you know what?
The Browns are going to win that game.
And now that I'm thinking about it more and more, there's no way in the world that NBC is going to take that game on Sunday night.
More and more that I'm thinking about it.
It doesn't make any sense. When has NBC ever taken it since they've ever gotten the Sunday night package deal? When have they ever had a bad game that late in the season?
Right. Well, Johnny, but again, they're not going to flex Thursday night when it's Bills Patriots and it's an AFC East division leading battle. They're not going to flex Brady out of Monday night.
No,
I'm telling you, it's either going to be forced to be a local telecast. Or they're going to do an NFL Network special at 1 o'clock.
I was going to say,
out of something if they already committed to it.
Yes, because the NFL has control.
No, we're talking about the flex scheduling, Nick.
But I was going to say,
basically, Nick, no, because Nick Federa wasn't here. Basically, we're talking about with that kind of storyline. Would the NFL and the broadcasters opt to flex any of these primetime games in an effort to get this storyline in?
I was going to say, because you said that Thursday game that week was what you said, Bills Patriots. I could see, because I think NBC obviously has the higher power over Amazon. Obviously, I would say in the package level, I could see them taking Bills Patriots and putting them on Sunday night, and then putting that game on Thursday night.
You're talking about a 3-way swap where Colts Cowboys goes to the afternoon, Bills Patriots goes to Sunday, and Cleveland Texans goes to Thursday.
Yeah, I could see them doing that because Sunday Night Football has the power over Amazon. Amazon just came in, so they're going to be below.
If they were willing and the Cowboys didn't put up much of a fuss, I could buy that, a 3-way swap to give NBC still something.
I'm telling you, the NFL's not going to let that go. They want that attention when Deshaun comes back.
Correct, Nick. But if our expectations are correct, they're also not going to take out a Bills-Patriots game that could have a very big impact on who wins the AFC East.
But wouldn't you rather have that on Sunday night? That's like their prime time game.
I'm saying out of prime time. They're not going to take that to the 1:00 slate of games.
Oh no, I wouldn't. That's going to be one of the biggest games of the year.
And like I said, those kinds of games, like that storyline with Cleveland and Houston, and the division with Buffalo and New England, here in the New York City market, we're going to get screwed because the 1:00 slate, like the CBS, they're going to air Jets Vikings. Now, I have no problem with that because my dad's a Vikings fan, and I would love to see the Vikings just smack the Jets all over around. I'll have fun that day.
Minnesota at that point because they'll be competing for a wild card.
We might have to do a live stream that day with the Jets and the Vikings since both the teams are playing one another.
Oh,
but
that's gonna be an ugly matchup, though.
That's gonna be ugly, yeah.
I don't know what kind of content we're gonna get out of that one.
You'll get me screaming like a miserable Jet fan.
Well, that's what I'm
You know what the content is going to be that day? This individual.
God, I wasn't expecting that.
Just him on the screen for 3.5 hours.
Zach Wilson throwing picks left and right. Oh my
Zach
God.
Wilson throwing 4 interceptions that day, getting sacked 3 times.
We go live to Nick Morganson, who is now he is in a fetal position.
The thing though, you wonder though with Wilson's injury if that's going to be something that's going to linger throughout the season. Even though he had the surgery and it went well, we still don't know exactly the time frame on that.
Brother, this guy stinks!
See, the thing though is, and I said this about the Jets, and not to get off on a tangent here, I like what they've actually done this offseason in, slowly getting some pieces in. Of course, not having Becton there, I think is a huge hit to Wilson, and that's where he runs into a problem. But I thought that, we all were on the night of the draft. Well, we all were on the night of the draft, and we liked what the Jets had done draft wise. So I think they are making some things in the right direction.
Well, he will be better by week 2 because guys, never underestimate Cougar power.
Exactly. It's a potent aphrodisiac and it's a steroid.
By the way, I just saw interesting NFL news come across. I know we're talking about Watson, but did you see that Daniel Jones at his press conference said that he had a non-football related procedure done on his neck?
Which was going to be my next question because the Giants don't play the Browns this year, did they?
No.
Because that would have been a guaranteed win.
No, I think. Well, I'm trying to. Sorry. The AFC North plays the NFC South this year, so they get the Bucks and the Saints and the Falcons.
First of all, Nick, nothing's a guaranteed win in New York football.
No.
The ironic thing about New York football this year, as I'm a Giant fan, Nick's a Jet fan, I think we can agree on this. As bad as both teams are going to be this year, they're going to be relevant throughout the season because you're going to have to find out the future. They see from a Giants fan perspective, this season's relevant because you need to find out where your future is going to be at QB and running back and stuff. And at the same time, what's that, Tom?
Sorry, I was going to say, well, Johnny, I think if these first few weeks of preseason training camp have told us anything, I don't think Dabble and the guys believe in Daniel Jones. Because think about it. Saquon Barkley, they're expecting to get another heavy workload despite his injuries. And Tyrod Taylor taking first-team reps. I think those are kind of signs to me.
Tom, I will go out right now, and I know we're not doing the preview show, but I will go out on a limb and say at some point this season that Tyrod Taylor is going to be starting a game for the Giants.
I agree.
The thing is, Daniel Jones, the problem that the Giants have is Jones would have to have a phenomenal season for them to think that he's the answer because – if this is year 5, I compare this like a Hall of Fame person. If you're still questioning if a guy's a Hall of Famer, then he's not. If you're still questioning if somebody like Daniel Jones is the answer, then he can't be the answer.
He can't be.
And a lot of it is actually not really his fault, but it's just the reality of the situation.
I think so. Here's the thing. I think he can be competent, but he's not exactly the answer. Now, I think some things are his fault, but I do agree that others aren't. I mean, Kenny Galladay, $72 million,
One
zero
of the worst
touchdowns.
free agent signings in the history.
I think Kenny Galladay has as much a target on him as Daniel Jones this season in terms of ire and expectation.
I totally agree with that. Yep. No,
Welcome to Giants talk.
And especially considering the fact every single tweet that I've seen out of Giants camp has basically been, the offense is having a good day, and why can't Daniel Jones get out of his own way?
the offense in the training camp.
Look. There are
I don't
certain
know.
things there. I know for a fact that I would rather not be a Browns fan right now. I really, I wouldn't want to be dealing with this if I was a Browns fan. However, I mean, Jesus Christ, football has problems.
Well, it's Roger Goodell problems too.
It's either whether it's on the field stuff or it's off the field stuff.
Nick, I was saying this to the guys. This is the biggest this problem, the sexual assault, the domestic violence. This is the biggest problem the NFL has had, and they can't get over it. This is the biggest problem they've had. They're the worst of the four major sports when it comes to something like this.
Well, can we talk about one more thing as well?
Yeah, come for the losing, stay for the sexual assault.
I'll give you one more. Did you see what Calvin Ridley tweeted on? And that basically he was incensed. 11 games. Calvin Ridley is indefinitely suspended for gambling.
And he kind of has a point.
He does have a point, and that's the thing. If the Ridley suspension doesn't even happen, like if we don't know if he doesn't do this or we don't know anything about this, then this is in some ways a different conversation that we're having here today.
Right now, guys. Now, to be fair on the NFL. Ridley did violate. It is 3 separate policies where we're talking about PD for Hopkins, gambling for Ridley, personal conduct for Deshaun. Ridley did violate the gambling policy. There was proof of it. However, I think it's more about the NFL. I'd say it's less about Ridley and more about the NFL and how it handles personal conduct. I think it's now been over a decade that it's clear the NFL can't handle personal conduct issues.
Absolutely. Go back to Pac-Man Jones. I mean, how many times do we hear about his name and having problems, and he'd get second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth chances? It's crazy.
How many bar fights was he in, and the NFL didn't do anything about it?
I mean,
driving or anything, yeah.
They've never wanted to take any kind of accountability.
Because there's no accountability by the NFL. Yeah. That's why.
It's almost like a Zen riddle. Which came first, the chicken or the egg? I mean, they want accountability, but it was never there in the first place. You cannot be accountable to a system that was never there in the first place. So,
I this is going to pain me to say this, but this is the one good thing that Rob Manfred has done in Major League Baseball was the situation with Trevor Bauer. That was the one. I mean,
Marcelo Ozuna too,
and Marcelo Ozuna, yeah. But
there's one difference.
Starlin Castro.
But there's one difference, though. Those actually had legal charges involved in them.
That is true as well.
Yeah.
So in this one, which I still don't understand how Deshaun got off the legal charges. I'll never understand that.
Well, Nick, not the Bauer one. The Bauer one,
I said Deshaun. I said I don't know how Deshaun got off the legal charges. Trevor Bauer, that's a whole different situation. There was marks all over the woman. So, and we still don't know what's going on with those charges. Trevor Bauer is basically done. His career is over.
Right. Well, I think, but Johnny's point was that basically it goes back to what we said at the beginning. The MLB, the NBA. I don't know so much about the NHL, but the NHL hasn't really had to deal with.
Well, they had
too much.
Well, they didn't have that, but they had the Evander Kane situation with the gambling.
Kane, right.
Yeah.
Well, Kane is a whole other story.
Oh, Kane's got multiple problems. But...
Yeah, but basically the point is those other 3 leagues. They can handle personal conduct stuff. They have set and strict consequences. The NFL, it's just
they don't know. Poor K.
Because you know what the NFL is, and I think they'll think about this too. The NFL is in. I'm trying to think of the right word here. Their product is so powerful that this can just go. This will probably blow by, and like when the season starts, we won't even be thinking about this because the product is that good.
Nick, don't hate me here, but this is what the NFL is making you think.
RELAX.
You know what? For once, I'm
Invincible.
not going to tell him to shut the fuck up. And you know why I'm not going to tell him to shut the fuck up? Technically, he's right. Because when they say, because that is what you hear, that RELAX, it's basically, they're hypnotizing you. That's what the NFL is doing. They're lulling you into a false sense of security.
And I think Nick is right.
Everything's fine. All is well. Just sit back on Sunday and just let your mind drift to thoughts of field goals, blown leads, touchdowns.
That was in the intro.
everything else.
That was in the intro to episode 148. Basically, you said you sit your butt on the couch and watch football, and
And they would rather you not ever have to think about any of these thorny little don't think.
You don't have to worry about the Deshaun Watson boogeyman.
Don't
You can
even
just
think-
watch the NFL.
Think about it. So down here,
It's not even a problem.
so like where I live now, down here in South Carolina, they're going to have on either CBS or Fox, wherever the game is, they're going to have the Brown Panther game on, and I'm sure they'll talk about the Watson situation in the beginning, but when they kick the ball off and Baker Mayfield has the ball 1st and 10 to start, you'll be thinking about the game.
You'll be thinking about the Brown Baker storyline instead, because all you're gonna hear is Roger Goodell going, "Shh."
Yeah.
it didn't happen. It didn't happen.
You know what? For as much as I rip Baker Mayfield right now, I mean, how do you think he feels out of all this? He got out of that mess, and now he's going to face them. So
Baker Mayfield is probably laughing his ass off right now because he has a job and Deshaun Watson is sitting on the sidelines.
you know what? Got to be fair. I mean, Baker's made some dumb comments. He's used some bad judgment, but I mean, it pales in comparison to.
But he's never sexually assaulted anyone.
Look, as somebody who said on, I think, this show and on my show, Game On, thinking that he wasn't even going to play in the league in 2022. I mean, I'm sure looking foolish there. But yeah, he's got the last laugh in this situation.
I mean, we're it's okay. You're among fellow clowns, so Hong Kong.
Well, some of my things have come back to bite me. That's for sure.
Well, let's put it this way. I mean, because Nick's going to be on vacation next week, so Johnny will be joining the two of the three clowns for the next episode.
Yeah, I got some big shoes to fill there, but you're going to be down in my neck of the woods, and yeah, and just think, if you can't get if this wasn't enough of the four of us, you'll see us again together in just about 2 weeks.
I'll throw that up there. I'll throw it up there. So Thursday, September 1st, 12 Eastern. That's a tentative date and time, but we will be broadcasting a season preview. We will go through each division. We will go through each team, and we will see their additions, their subtractions, the big storylines. We'll pick our division winners. We'll pick our early contender for Super Bowl AFC NFC champions. And
wait, we can talk football? We can talk on the field football?
Well, this is actually what Roger Goodell wants.
Hey, and you know what Roger Goodell will tell you? That this offseason has been one of epic proportions. If you take out the Watson stuff, I mean, all the moves that have been made, the switching of the teams and stuff. I mean, this offseason, I know that because that was when I joined the network. And we were talking on my show, and I'm sure on your show as well, about all the moves that have been made, whether it's been quarterback switches or what. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, Nick, by the way, so I don't know what happened that I was able to, type Deshaun Watson very freely on that last tweet, but I just looked, and the ETB Sports is still blocked by him.
Well, but you can tag him, though.
Yeah, but we're still blocked, apparently.
So how can we tag him, though, and it worked?
I don't know how it worked, but
his loss.
I don't. What's going on?
Well, you know what? At the very least, you're still in his head.
Yes. I'm okay with that because we were totally on this before most people were.
So does that mean, if you're living rent free in his head, does that mean you're dragging your ass around his carpet like a dog?
No. No. Ew.
I could just imagine that. What are you doing? Oh, just redecorating.
Ugh. Ew.
Okay, hold on. So, Nick, that means we don't have it ready in our soundboard, but that means that this sound effect still airs.
I forgot to put that one in. Ah, damn.
Oh God.
All I can say is we're sounding the alarm.
And that sound effect means this is the end of our stream. I want to thank all of you.
And you know what? I'll end it on one front. This is like Nick said. The NFL is telling you to
RELAX.
Shut the fuck up.
But programming notes, obviously, make sure because our show's already passed for this week. Go check them out. Episode 21 of Game On, episode 148 of Empty the Bench. We did talk about Deshaun Watson, but now we have the news, and I'm sure we'll catch up on these next week.
Yeah, so if you're just catching the tail end of this, and somehow I've been under a rock for the last couple of hours, NFL Deshaun Watson have actually settled. It is going to be an 11-game suspension, a $5 million fine. Actually, we didn't go over the full details of that suspension because there are going to be certain dates that are going to be key. So August 30th, Deshaun Watson suspension technically begins because that's 2 days after the final preseason game for the Browns. Remember, there's no Labor Day preseason games because of the shortened preseason. So Deshaun Watson's suspension actually technically begins August 30th. October 10th, he may return to the team facility, participate in limited activities. My assumption is basically weight room activities. Then November 14th, he can begin practice in the lead up to December 4th, the big Browns-Texans revenge game that the NFL has gifted him.
Yeah.
Good job, NFL.
And this is what we find ourselves in, folks.
A pickle?
So, and remember, the NFL and Cleveland also each donating $1 million to create $7 million that will go to charities for the prevention of sexual misconduct for women, and we all sing "Kumbaya."
Oh God.
Well,
Congratulations, NFL. You did it. Good job.
You have hit the bottom of the barrel.
No, hitting the bottom of the barrel would mean you didn't suspend Deshaun at all.
Oh God.
All right. So that is going to do it. So for Nick Morganson, Nick Federa, Johnny Montalbano, I'm Tom Albano, and we will see everybody next week on Game On and Empty the Bench. Take care, everyone.
All right.
See you, everybody.
See ya.